Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey, Deathray here, and I am so excited to roll out this brand new series for you guys. Now, this is an offshoot of Late Night with the Davey called Before Dark. And what we do here are pre-recorded interviews because some of our guests that we want to have on just can't make that Wednesday 10 p.m. Eastern time slot. I mean, some people live all the way across the globe, and we wanted to make sure we could still bring them on, get to know them a bit, and have them get to know you guys as well through the comments section and through that awesome engagement that you guys do so well. And to kick things off, we have a very special guest because this episode is premiering on September 13th, 2024, and that's a Friday the 13th, so we've got Ron Sloan, who played Junior in Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. It was awesome getting to know Ron earlier this summer at the Days of the Dead convention here in Phoenix, and we put together this little chat that I'm so pumped to share with you guys. So let's jump right into it. Real quick before we get going, please like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Let me know who you want to see on Late Night with the Davey next. All right, we've got Ron Sloan here. Thank you so much, Ron, for not only agreeing to do an interview, but being so awesome as far as setting everything up. We met, just a little over a month ago at Days of the Dead in Phoenix. I was working that horror show channel booth, and you kicked it for the whole Saturday with us. It was really cool. And really awesome just kicking it. I'm a really talky kind of guy, as you'll find out through the interview. And, meeting you and hanging out with you at the table, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be cool. I'm going to let Ron do the talking. Because even when I try, Ron, I still talk too much. So,
it's all good, man.
And you were, so sweet and awesome to the folks there at the con. I think that's one of the great things about the horror community, that we can sort of get into here in the interview. But I'm really curious, when we first started chatting and I was sort of like, what were the movies, like when you were younger, was there a certain film or even just like a family member that got you into film at a younger age that made you think like, I think I want to try this thing out?
Oh, that's no. Next question, please. No. No, I have two older brothers. My middle brother loved watching horror films. I remember he'd scare the hell out of me. The Mummy, the original, with Boris Karloff, frightened myself for a young kid. I was all of 9 years old. All the old Frankenstein, or Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein and the Wolf Man, all that stuff. That was fun. And no, when I was 3 years old, I was at Disneyland, and I'll never forget. I was on the paddle wheeler, the steamboat, the Mark Twain. Wow, memories still working.
Yeah.
And they were doing the twist. It tells you how old I am. And so it's interesting. After doing the twist, there was a gentleman there that came up to me and said, actually to my mother, and said, "We'd like your son to be on the Mickey Mouse show, the Mickey Mouse Club." And my mother promptly said, "No, those kids are brats and they're all spoiled, and my son did that." So, hey, I could have had a break when I was 3, but I had to wait till 1976 when I joined Union. So yeah, that's how it started. I've been a Union member since 1976.
Wow. And so that is pretty wild though, that so many people, it's like if they miss that one opportunity, boom, that's it, right? Poof, it's gone. But it is, it must have been some sort of destiny or fate that brought you right back around, in the mid 70s.
My ass. I did showcases every week. I took acting in college, high school, college, because it fulfilled an English requirement. And to me, it was a lot easier than writing a paper.
Yeah.
I'm a little lazy, when it comes to that. And when I left college, I went down to LA and actually worked for Metro Media Television, Channel 11. And at that time, they shot all the Norman Lear shows, All in the Family, Different Strokes, Facts of Life, One Day at a Time. And by being a page and by being in the union, which is a whole nother story, but I got my union card when I was there. I got little one-liners, little bit parts on a ton of the Norman Lear shows. And that really gave me a break. I mean, Norman Lear gave me a wonderful break. And it was in 1985, which really was 13 years later. So, you know, it's not an overnight success.
Yeah.
I was doing a showcase, and Pamela Basker and Fern Champion, who were the casting directors of Friday the 13th, Part 5, were there that night. And after doing my little 5-minute scene, they asked me, well, can you play a hillbilly? And I thought about it just for 10 seconds. And of course I can. And I thought of a friend of my brother's who was so goofy and such an idiot that I just portrayed him. And I had these guys laughing, and they said, well, we want you to come to our office tomorrow and pick up the sides for a movie called Repetition.
Yeah.
It wasn't called Friday the 13th. It was called Repetition. Yeah. So I picked up the sides and read with for Danny Steinman, the director. And after it was all said and done, he goes, wow, kid, it's going to be great working with you. And I was like, oh, my God. I was like, in my mind thinking, did I get the part? Or, you know,
sure.
I'm a newbie at this.
Yeah.
And Fern and Pam reeled me back in and said, well, tomorrow you get to meet Frank Mancuso Jr. He's the producer on the film. So came back the next day, walked in the studio, you know, with butterflies and all that. And Danny said to Frank, he goes, hey, this is the kid I told you about, and I love working with him. Again, I had to reel it in, and I didn't let that get to my head thinking I had to cover it. And it was a couple days later they called and said, and I got the gig. So
yeah, that's got to be such an interesting process, right? Where you're, you know, I would imagine I played music, you know, growing up and everything like that. And you're always thinking, you know, in any kind of, well, at least I was in any sort of like creative expression or like show business, you're like, you know, is this show is getting to open up for this band is, you know, your mind starts like flying with like, what could that lead to? Like, what is going to be that moment? If I get that moment, you know, when I look back, like, what is that moment going to be like? So for you going through that with Steinman and then meeting Mancuso, was there just a little bit of that sort of like, not imposter syndrome, but that whole like, is this thing really happening? Don't fumble the ball. Don't fumble the ball.
Well, on the set, that's how you feel. I mean, I remember my first day on the set, location out in Camarillo, Santa Rosa Canyon, and sitting there with the whole cast. Now, don't forget, we're still thinking it's repetition.
Okay.
Nobody said a word.
Even when you started shooting, you still like, when did they?
Well, that first day, we're all sitting there and the conversation, like I'm talking to Miguel Nunez, and so, hey, how do you die? You know, well, I'm in an outhouse and I get spears through me, you know. Oh, I get my head cut off. And, you know, and it was just that kind of fun. And all of a sudden, Tom Morga, who was Jason, at least the stuntman Jason, awesome guy, amazing guy, comes out and he's in full dress with the hockey mask with the blue slashes. And we're all looking going, I mean, it was like you could hear a pin drop. All of a sudden, we're all, we're on Friday the 13th. Oh my God, we're on Friday the 13th. I mean, it was like everybody was going nuts.
Yeah. And so is that when some of the anxiety set in when you're like, oh no, like people are really going to see this one?
No, you know, I didn't have that kind of anxiety. It's interesting. You know, I was very fortunate to work with Carol Locatell. So, I mean, as a team, we just clicked and she fed me and I ate it, you know, and back and forth. And it was so good. there was I had an experience where I did a scene. I think it was the scene with John Shepard, our fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it went really well. Except I got knocked out, but it went really well. And I really got hit by the stunt coordinator, Dick Warlock,
Dang.
and John Shepard, but that's a whole other story. Um, and after doing that scene, I had another scene. And when I finished that scene, Frank and Danny came up to me, hey, man, that was great. Hey, thank you. That was great. And that went right to my head. And the next scene, I like flubbed a line or two. And it was like, okay, so you go from hero to zero that quickly. Stay within your wheelhouse, don't look
Yeah.
at you. So,
It is.
it's about, you can't help it,
Yeah, and I think sometimes with performance, it's like the forgetting is almost like the best, like naturally forgetting is almost the best thing that can happen, where you just like fall into it and you don't catch yourself remembering who you really are. It's just sort of like lose yourself in the moment kind of thing,
Well, it's fun playing a character. When you're a character, there's no holds barred.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows that side of you. So, yeah. I mean, when you're playing a character, sky's the limit. It's whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
If I was playing Ron Sloan and Ron Sloan, then you're going, I think he screwed that up.
Well, yeah. And speaking of no holds barred, I mean, yeah, the performances here. I mean, first off, Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning is this like sleeper hit for fan favorite. There are so many folks that love the fact that it's different, that they love that it stands out for so many different reasons. And I think one of the things, at least that stands out to me as a really big fan of the franchise, is how much fun the characters are having in the film.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, I mean, you guys having fun in the trailer park and almost every line is like, falling over laughing kind of line. And it just, I would imagine, like you were saying, just that bouncing off each other. Were there, with Steinman, was he sort of just like, let it fly, let's make it as outlandish as we can. Let's like kind of carve out our space here within this franchise. Or was it just sort of like you guys found that with each other?
Well, Danny gave Carol and I a lot of freedom, but he did have a direction. I mean, it wasn't like, do what you want to do. And no, he had a goal.
Mm-hmm.
He was letting us make a path to get to that goal. I mean, a lot of the dialogue was written. It wasn't all improvised. For Danny, for Carol and myself, Danny was awesome. I mean, some people had conflicts with Danny, but I think our characters were so loose and so much fun, and it gave him a freedom of, oh, hey, man, whatever you guys want to do. You know? It wasn't, it was very liberating. I felt the hard part of it was the censors, because back in those days, the censorship was tremendous. And I remember I was in what they call ADR, where you do your voiceover sound stuff. And they had me in screaming, literally screaming, because what they got that night, even though I lost my voice from screaming so much, they had to overdub it and do all this. And I got to see a clip, and it was cool because it was in black and white, of my head getting cut off and actually rolling down a hill. And it happened to just look right up at camera. And I was like, holy shit. It freaked me out. I mean, it was so real looking. It was so freaky. But that didn't pass the censors. So now they had to just hit the ground. There, done, out.
Yeah. I noticed that's one of those things that I pick up on. It was the mid 80s just sort of were tackled by the MPAA, where it was, the first few films in the series were, I would say the first 4, there's a wide array. Sure, sometimes you get the cutaway kill, but I'm the kind of guy where like, I want every kind of kill in my slasher. So I don't mind the cutaway. But I do notice that, in 5, 6, and 7, even Jason Takes Manhattan, where the MPAA was still sort of, kind of trying to cut it away a little bit too early.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's a
now,
shame.
yeah, nowadays they can turn you inside out and,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, it's cool. It's not
Yeah.
scary at all. Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen Terrifier, but that just blew the doors off everything, as far as like
Yeah.
I had never seen anything quite like that. And then it makes I start to like feel like the old like get off my lawn kind of slasher fan where I'm just like, that's too much blood, and
Yeah,
it's like,
there's
all
a
right.
lot of pretty, but the actor David's a nice guy. He's a great guy.
Oh,
I've
yeah,
seen him
and
at conventions.
he's a fantastic performer. And I think what's great about the horror community on a whole is that there is something for everyone. There's gateway horror for, younger kids to watch. And even as movies get older, like something like the original Halloween just wouldn't be that shocking to where, a younger person could watch that with their parent. And then you've got the people that are, love the Terrifier, give me as much blood as possible, kind of
Everybody
vibe.
has their own audience,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And the community is filled with so many. I just feel like it's so nice for what most people think of when they think of horror. Like when I tell people that I like horror movies, they look at me side-eyed like there's something wrong with me. But then when you go to a convention, like we were just at, in the summer here in Phoenix, like everyone is so welcoming, so sweet, and so nice.
It's a beautiful family.
Yeah.
It's not all twisted. People, just because I do horror films, it's not necessarily my life. It's my livelihood. I mean, I have so much fun doing what I do. And actually, it's almost becoming a stipulation now of, well, do I die in this film? Because I really want to die in this film.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the killers do well at conventions. You take any Jason, oh my God, or Freddy Krueger, or Michael Myers, or the guy who was the stuntman, Dick Warlock for Michael Myers, or Nick Castle. I mean, these guys do bank. Victims, well, not so much, but it's just all part of the family. It's all warm, fuzzy, and I've heard some pretty funny stories when people were talking about Friday the 13th Part 5, and it was the first time they saw it and how they were introduced. One of the funniest, and this is just too much, but I believe it. This guy said he was like 13 years old and he walked in on his parents having sex. Okay, what's that have to do with Part 5? Part 5 was on the TV, and my moment of screaming and getting my head cut off was at that same moment. He looked at his parents, saw my head get cut off, looked at his parents, and walked out of the room. He goes, I've never forgotten that moment when you
Oh
died.
my gosh.
I'm like, I don't know what's worse, watching your parents have sex or watching me get my head cut off,
And having the two associated with each other and then falling in love with the one, right? That it didn't ruin it.
Don't exactly want to watch your parents again, but
in some sort of Freudian way, it worked out to turn the person into a horror fan.
It's crazy. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, and that's when you're screaming like, he hurt me, like all that. Yeah.
Oh, the whole night.
Yeah, I think the first time, so I was born in 82, so I'm an early 80s baby. I have 4 older siblings though, so I was absorbing a lot of like 80s culture. And then it must have been like sometime around like 1990, they started, every Friday the 13th weekend on the USA Network, they would just run through a whole bunch. So like Part 5 was probably the second or third one that I saw during one of these weekends. And it's perfect to see it on TV as a kid because it all, it censors out the stuff that my parents don't want me to see. And I still get to feel like I'm watching something that's like exciting and dangerous.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. And, we're coming up, next March is the 40th anniversary of the film.
Big time.
Yeah. Have you, now you don't have to give anything away here, but have you heard any rumblings or anything about something being put together to celebrate this film in particular?
Promoters don't want us to say anything until they say something, but I know I'm doing 2 major conventions. At least
Awesome.
it's been mentioned to me, but
Sure.
nothing's etched in stone.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that. And I just booked a convention today, October 4th, 5th, and 6th. I don't know if you want to promote this yet or not, or
Yeah, you totally can. Yeah, because just for the folks that are watching this after or whenever I'm going to plan on releasing this on September 13th because we do have a Friday the 13th coming up. So yeah, that's a perfect time to mention
well,
that.
what I'll do is I'll text you or whatever, send you the info. It's in Kingman, Arizona, Kingman Comic Con.
Oh.
And it's the first time they're going to have some horror folk.
Wow.
And it's going to be fun. It's myself. It's going to be Melanie Kinnaman, Shavar Ross, Tom Morga. Tom Morga, who was the stuntman who played Jason.
Mm-hmm.
He's also, I believe, was a stuntman for Michael Myers and
in part 4. Yeah.
There might be 1 or 2 other cast members. I don't know yet. I mean, this literally is just being put together as of today.
Wow.
So I'll send you a link and info that you can post. And
absolutely.
Kingman, Arizona is an hour from Vegas. So none of us have done any conventions that I'm aware of in Las Vegas. I'm sure Tom has. He's probably done Days of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
But this is going to be a fun one. You can go to Vegas, hang out in Kingman all day, go back to Vegas and gamble and say, God, I spent all that money buying memorabilia. Instead, I lost it playing poker.
Or maybe you go to the casino in the morning, try to get lucky, but set yourself a limit, be realistic, and then you can get more signatures and more pictures.
That's true. Or if you just come, you're going to get lucky by seeing us because we haven't been together for quite some time. I can't remember the last time I did a convention with Tom. So.
Yeah, that's a great collection, and hopefully they can fill in a couple of those gaps there and get some other folks in there as well.
It's a smaller con, but the benefit is it's a smaller con. It's us and some comic book guys, Yeah. I mean, if you're a horror fan, this is up close and personal. You're gonna get a good chance to hang out with us. And it's 3 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the benefit of, going to something that's relatively small. Like I grew up in a tiny town and I grew up, playing punk rock and stuff. And I always liked it felt like the accessibility, it was something that I really enjoyed. And I think that's, within horror, I do think there's more accessibility already. And then something intimate like this, to really be able to, connect with somebody that you've been watching for years and celebrating, what they do.
And that's the right word, intimate. I've been involved in a lot of cons, and some of them are, so huge. It's wonderful. They're wonderful. They're so overwhelming, but the gazillion vendors and all the celebrities, and you're like a kid in a candy store. Wow, that's what's this, But on these smaller ones, it's so personal. Mm-hmm. I had one I did in Blairstown, New Jersey, at the Blairstown Diner. And what was interesting was just walking through Blairstown was where they shot, I guess, the first Friday the 13th. Mm-hmm. And it was on a Friday the 13th. And it was interesting. I was walking through a park, just getting a flavor of the town and everything before the convention. There were 20 Jasons walking in the park. These guys were in full get-up walking the town. I was like, this is a little bizarre. Yeah. And one guy walked up to me and goes, hey, can I kill you? I was like, whoa, wait, excuse me? He goes, no, I just want to, strangle you. I go, wait, He goes, no, can I have a photo strangling you? I went, there you go. And I do have that picture. It's very good. And ironically, 2 folks were renewing their vows for their wedding. The minister was dressed as Jason, and they asked me to be a witness. So
That's
that's
way too
pretty
cool.
cool. I mean, that was a good
Yeah.
autograph on a certificate, you know? I mean, how cool
Yeah.
is that?
There you go. That's funny that you bring that up. So my wife and I, our very first date was on a Friday the 13th. It was the day before Valentine's Day, 9 years ago, this past February. And we ended up watching, I think we ended up watching Jason Lives after our first date. So she was a good sport because we put on, she didn't come from that world. I sucked her into that world.
There you go.
And then we got married a couple years ago and we were like, what day should we pick? And I was like, well, I think we should get married on a Friday the 13th. So we ended up doing that Friday the 13th of 2022. It was in May, so it was blisteringly hot. This is actually the same jacket I wore with a much nicer shirt. But yeah, Friday the 13th is one of those things that it's like, it's just, man, the series as a whole is just so much fun. I think it's so accessible. I think that regardless of, the fans, like, I feel like the fans love all the movies, and it's like a degree of love is sort of, you end up ranking everything in your head, right? We're humans. We do it, right? But there's something these movies are just so easy to watch. Like I put on A New Beginning last night, just as I'm thinking about, the interview and just wanting to kind of get in the Ron Sloan tone. And yeah, those movies, they're just so incredibly easy to watch and so much damn fun.
Well,
So
it's a no-brainer. It's predictable. You know who's going to die. It's obvious. I mean, they're easy. It's no great mystery. But going back to one of your questions way in the beginning, Part 5 was panned for many years. I mean, a lot of people, oh, that's not the real Jason. Well,
sure.
People really didn't like the movie, and then it sort of came around as a classic, and for some people it's number one.
Yeah.
There are still diehard fans out there that I get little messages every now and then that they still don't like the movie.
Oh man, they're reaching out to you about it.
I'm so sorry. I had to eat slop to do that movie, and you didn't suffer, I did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty bizarre, right? Because it's like a lot of people that hop in, over here on this channel, like every time I bring up Friday the 13th, they talk about how A New Beginning's the best one, and I think there's something really cool about, generationally, the way people look at art, the way we look at art when it's brand new versus looking at it in context years later, comparing it to everything that surrounded it. And I think one of the nice things is, you can go down the line 20, 30, 40 years, and the way that a film is looked at is going to be totally different. I mean, John Carpenter's The Thing was destroyed by critics and bombed. And a lot of people say it's like the best.
Movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's arguably the best. If you told me that that's a better movie than Halloween, I wouldn't even argue. I'd be like, fair enough, fair enough. Like, it may not be as iconic for him. And I think that's the case with something like, Friday the 13th Part 5. I think that it did well at the time it came out, though.
Yeah.
Correct?
I mean, box office wise, it did well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because if you think about it, it's a real film. What I mean by that is it could happen.
Sure. Yeah.
Copycat killers do happen. Where when you take, not to minimize anything, trust me, I'd get hate mail. You take Jason and Michael Myers and any of these slasher characters that never die. That's a genre that you dig and you love and you really enjoy watching the film. But when you take an actual film that could truly happen, like Carrie, for example.
Yeah.
Sissy Spacek, it could happen. Someone goes ballistic because the school picks on them. It happens.
Oh yeah.
It's terrible. I'm into sci-fi horror. To me, aliens the first Alien movie scared the
Yeah.
crap out of me. I was at the Directors Guild watching it, and I was very fortunate to be there. And there you can't even have a bag of popcorn. There are no
Yeah.
sounds. You're not sucking down drinks. There's no talking, and you have to stay for every credit till they go.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that movie, Alien,
Yeah.
the Predator
I'm.
films.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I know it sounds crazy, but that could happen. There are aliens out there. If you
Yeah.
haven't met one yet, well, then you're in the wrong part of town.
Well, and even yeah, bringing up The Thing or something like
I believe that.
maybe.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and what's really scary about The Thing is like you don't even see, like you see this really, again, intimate version of how this thing's gonna break out. And what I love about watching The Thing is I think, oh my God, what happens when this thing actually reaches a city? Like that's it. It'd be like almost instant, right?
Yeah,
Um,
you fast forward thinking, that stuff. I mean, you want to
yeah.
see it get killed, but it doesn't.
No. And I think that I kind of like that version of horror where there's always a little bit of that reality at the end. I'm a big Romero fan, and I felt like at the end of his zombie movies, he always is like, it's only relatively happy, the ending.
Yeah.
At best, and that's the way we are. It's just that, like, is there really a happy ending in life? I don't know, but I feel like Romero was just sort of doing a good job of like temper your expectations.
Well, I was very fortunate. I did an episode of Tales of the Dark Side.
Mm-hmm.
George Romero. Hey,
Yeah.
it's called The Serpent's Tooth, and I played Joanne Willette's boyfriend, who's like a football jock, kind of
Mm-hmm.
not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree. Renee Taylor, she was awesome. I can't remember the gentleman's name that played her brother. Senior moment. But my first stage kiss, Joanne, thank you.
There it is.
Woo! No, it's just kind of funny because even then I was fortunate enough to have kind of a whimsical character. And that was the same year as Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
It was the same. I died in that one too. I died 3 times that year. I burned to death in a film with John Shepard. Hey, full circle.
Is that Bonsai Runner? I was looking at that.
Runner.
And I was like, man, they got to work together again. How was that after?
That was right after, about I think 2 months after. And what was interesting about it, John and I didn't have a scene together, but we're in the same film. And I used a little bit of the wardrobe from Friday the 13th in that one. I think it was my jumpsuit, my coveralls.
Oh,
boots. Nice. I remember I had t-shirts that killed them all and let God sort them out. So that tells you the kind of character I played. And I burned to death. I burned to death in that one.
Oh, wow. That's hardcore. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But it's kind of funny. I dig it. I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed on all this. And
I think what's really cool, especially about the world of horror, is just that, I feel like there's every performer, every actor is celebrated. I know that you were talking about how sure, like the killers get more of the attention, but every time I've been to a con, I see the love just going all over the place. And I'm just, there are people out there that it's just like, there's something for everyone in the sense that every single character has a group of like super fans, that just loves that character. And same thing with the films as well. And it's really awesome to see. I mean, you've got that junior head right behind your right shoulder there, and you brought it to the con with you.
Other shoulder.
And it looks great. People get a kick out of walking by and checking it out.
They get to hold it when they, get selfies with me and all that. And it's a fun. I mean, conventions are fun.
Yeah.
I look at it literally as just fun. And it's a few days of laughing and sharing and being with the horror family. Yeah. And feeling a lot of love and care.
Yeah, to me, I call it church. I'm like, this is church for us, you know? It's just like this is communion right here, everyone coming
There you
together.
go.
Putting
Um,
everything else aside, all the other differences don't even matter because the things that we love that are all in this building and the performers that we love, that's what's binding us over the weekend. And it is really cool to see, you know, there's enough ugliness in the world, so it's nice to have a break where people sort of shed that kind of stuff. And
it's a few minutes away from insanity, even though you're in an
yeah,
insane place.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
you mentioned it's so funny because I've had a couple people dressed like Junior. And they come in the dirty sweatshirt and the flight cap, and it just cracks me up. I mean,
Yeah,
really, I have one guy who is 6'7", 300+ pounds, and I looked at him. I go, "Dude, you are Junior." You
yeah.
know, he goes, "I need a picture with you." I go, "No, I need a picture with you, man."
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and you look like a mountain in that film because you're, you know,
well,
being
I
next
was
to
a
Ethel
lot
there.
bigger. I was bigger back then. I was tipping 245 pounds. I'm now 165, so that's a pretty
Yeah,
big
I mean,
difference.
yeah, and you look fantastic, and
Thank
like,
you.
and yeah, in that film, it's just like every time I watch it now, especially after you know seeing you in 13 Fanboy and seeing you in Dylan's New Nightmare, I'm like sitting there squinting. I'm like, wait, that's Ron? Like it's just wild to me, you know. But it was almost 40 years ago, so
Yeah,
you know,
it's that, and also, Carol's so small, it makes me look big. I mean, she was a
yeah,
peanut. She was 100 pounds dripping wet.
yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of folks like, you know, one thing that you learn about movie, if you're a fan that like really wants to dig and know a little bit more about how it all works, like you realize that sometimes an actor looks pretty tall, but it's because the actors in relation to them are
True.
relatively short. And you realize that,
Well,
oh, that tall actor is only 6 feet tall. I thought he was like 6'3", 6'4", you know?
well, look at Sly Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're not tall people.
Yeah.
You think
Yeah.
they're giants. They're not.
Yeah.
There were actors I know in the 50s. I remember my parents pointing out some actor and saying, "Oh yeah, he stands on an apple box." My uncle was a grip. He goes, "Oh yeah, he stands on an apple box next to the leading lady."
Yeah.
Wow.
I think his name is Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
you go.
I'm
Hey,
just joking.
but his wallet's tall, very tall.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the tallest wallet. He probably just
Tallest
stands on
wallet
the
in
wallet.
Hollywood.
Yeah, he wears. I always joke around. I'm like, Tom wears a medium size, youth medium size T-shirt, and he runs in every movie, and he looks great doing it.
Well, he's got the body to wear the youth medium-sized T-shirt.
He sure does. I will say this: it is tough for me to suspend my disbelief because some actors get so big that you know things about their personal lives and all that kind of stuff. But for what he does, it's very, you know, it's you know, action movies aren't necessarily my speed, but I'm like, I can recognize like, all right, he's doing a good job there. This is good, you know.
He's a very good actor. Very good actor. I would love to be in a Tom Cruise film.
Have him kill you, maybe.
Oh yeah. Hey, call somebody, would you?
Do you think people walk up to Tom Cruise and be like, "Can I kill you?"
No, I think it's
Yeah, I don't
just
think his
Tom,
security would be like all
yeah,
over that.
security. Yeah, check please. Um, yeah.
I dress up as Michael Myers during Halloween. I have all these masks and I have the jumpsuit and everything. And this little kid came up a couple years ago, little tiny kid with a tiny little Michael Myers mask on, and I was like, "Do you want a picture? Do you want to kill me?" And he was like nodding, and his parents were there, and I was like, "This is so cool!" Like, you know, Michael on Michael crime. It's perfect. It's another great thing about the horror community for sure.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of that, and you know, I just mentioned 13 Fanboy and Dylan's New Nightmare. 13 Fanboy is a huge celebration of horror. I mean, I don't think there's ever been. This is like it's like Avengers Endgame of slashers. You know, it's all these, you know, people that have been in multiple franchises. You know, you got Dee Wallace there. You know, she's
You
horror
can stop
royalty.
right there. Dee's amazing.
Yeah.
Dee, God, I would love to work with Dee in a heartbeat anytime. Talking about professional, talking about knowing her. I mean, I have never worked with anybody like Dee. I mean, I was so lucky
Yeah.
to play her hubby.
Yeah, and she is so incredibly natural. That was like one thing I picked up because I've seen her older movies and stuff, grew up with those films,
Yeah,
of
the
course.
Howling
Uh,
and
yeah, E.T. I mean, that's
Cujo.
yeah, yeah. And to see her in something that's, you know, relatively small as far as, budget and everything goes like that, but
Oh,
man,
yeah.
she is just the work ethic, the dedication, and it does just feel so natural.
And also, I mean, she's such a special person, a special soul. Matter of fact, I'll just share this with you. If you go on imdb.com, type in my name, there's a demo reel of scenes from 13 Fanboy that are not in the movie.
Oh,
They were
all
the
right.
warm, mushy, there's a couple warm, mushy scenes that were not in the film. So a little warm fuzzy.
Yeah.
I won't give it all away, but Dee and I are in bed together. Just saying.
Ayo.
Saying. Ooh, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah, go on IMDb and type in Ron Sloan, and you're gonna go,
there it is.
oh.
Ron having a moment with Dee Wallace.
I definitely had a couple of moments with Dee, and
Now,
I mean, yeah,
are
awesome.
the dogs in the film? Are those your dogs? Were they
No,
Dee's
those
dogs?
dogs were Deborah Sue Voorhees' dogs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she directed the film, right?
She directed it, wrote it with Joe Paul Rising, produced it. I mean, she did everything.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a nice role in the film, too. No,
Yeah.
she was dynamite, man. I'm working with her on 2 other projects right now. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah. Hey, part of the fam.
Yeah, and I was same kind of thing where I hadn't seen her. I don't think I had seen her in anything other than A New Beginning, and watching 13 Fanboy, I was like, man, the chops are there. Like, this
Yeah.
is not only is it cool to see all these people together, but it's great to see people performing well. I think that's like one of the big things too.
Yeah. Everybody did a good job. It was nice. I hung out with CJ Graham, who played Jason.
Yeah.
I didn't have a scene with Kane. I mean, I didn't see him on the set, but yet I was at a con in, I can't remember where it was. Might have been Florida. And I went up to him and I'm looking at him. He's looking at me like he knows me, but doesn't know me. And I'm like, 13 Fanboy, we're in the same movie together. Oh, hey, man. Kane was cool. He was very cool. And just
even
Lar Park Lincoln and Judy Aronson, awesome. Tracy Savage, which you probably saw. I just saw Tracy at Days of the Dead, and we had a great talk. And she's amazing.
Yeah, and she got into like broadcasting and everything like that for a little bit too.
She's a reporter at NBC News. I used to see her on TV when I grew up in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and she's got a kind of a standout character because I think she's the only pregnant character in a Friday the 13th film. Right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then she's even like, they're smoking in the van and everything, and I'm like, oh, back in the 80s, you could just show somebody, partaking in cannabis, they're pregnant, no big deal. It was a different time. That's a
little bizarre.
Judy Aronson, though, I have to confess, Ron, that is, man, she's my slasher crush. Out of all of them, I was telling my wife last night, I was like, you could put together all of the big 3 slasher for any of the slasher franchises, and I'm picking Judy Aronson, and she still looks amazing. It blows my mind. I don't know how they do it.
Well, she owns a workout facility, so there's no lack of working out.
Yeah.
She does.
Oh yeah, she works for it.
And she's a sweetheart. When she was on 13 Fanboy, initially the first day of shooting, she was really sick. I mean, cold, flu, whatever it was. And we didn't know each other. And I didn't realize how sick she was. I said, "Well, you
Mhm.
need somebody to rehearse with." Oh my God, we ran lines for a couple hours, and that's where the bonding came in. And you
Yeah.
know, doesn't matter where I am in the world, if I run into her, you know, there's that friendship, there's that horror family thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's something really cool and really special. And that, seeing Vincent DeSanti in there as
Great
well.
guy.
And yeah, he's somebody that, so, I watched the Never Hike Alone movies from far away.
He's
I got to
brilliant.
meet him. Yeah, I met him last year when I met Cecil and interviewed Cecil, because I didn't know Cecil until after Dylan's New Nightmare, like right when it was about to come out, is kind of when we met. And, Vin has been one of those guys that every time I see him, it's like, we jump right back on the same page. And it's really interesting to see him in something like 13 Fanboy, where it's like, he really gets to act, like,
Yeah.
not saying that playing Jason isn't acting, but it's really cool to see, like, people using their facial
You
expressions in
know, he
a,
did a great job. And
yeah.
what was interesting on that was when I was shooting 13 Fanboy and met Vince. After we shot, he came up to me and he goes, "I have an idea. I have a part for you now. A fan film called
Oh,
Dylan's New Nightmare. There's a role in it I would love for you to play." And I went, "Sure." You know, I didn't have to go, "Let me read the script and see if it's
yeah.
right for me,"
Do I
that does
die?
happen. I've turned down a couple of things in my past only because
Mhm.
they just rubbed me wrong.
Sure.
But working with Vince, he was a producer on it
Hmm.
and had a great input with Cecil Laird, who was the director. These guys knocked it out of the park. And Miko Hughes, man,
Hmm.
that cat's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and we just had a nice, really nice talk at Days of the Dead and hung out a little bit together. And I'm sure he'll come and visit. And,
Yeah.
again, horror family.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that that's one of those, when I was getting to know Cecil, and he told me, like his version of that story, because I was like, how did you get Ron in here? Like, this is awesome. And he's like, oh, like Vin actually brought him in. He's like, one of the great things about having Vin come onto the project was, we got to, bringing in Ron, we got to take another look at the script and everything, because Vin is, he's one of those minds where he can wrap his brain around it all, and
Yeah, he's brilliant, man.
yeah, and
And having Ben Meredith, the cinematographer.
yeah, who worked on 13 Fanboy as
Oh
well.
yeah, man, that was old home week. You know,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
just home run. Boy, if
yep.
I any gig I'm in, if they can afford Ben, I don't know what he charges, but that's worth the money. He is worth
Yeah,
the money.
yeah, and it is really, that's one of the things, as I get, older as a film fan, I try to pay attention. I want to be the most, as intelligent of an audience member as I can be without having the experience of being in that kind of show business, and, really paying attention to the shot composition and what, everything that's going on with the camera, as far as like how deliberate those movements are and those placements are. I can surely see that in Ben's work. And I think Ben
Ben,
and Cecil in Dylan's New Nightmare, it's a really good mix of like,
yeah, and
there's something
lighting,
that,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very cinematic. And whenever I talk about these fan films, it seems like I keep on saying the same thing, that the bar just keeps on getting raised. And it's
Well,
amazing for the horror fans.
what's nice is that it won the. I saw the trophy.
Yes, the I
The
Horror trophy. Yeah,
I
yeah, it
Horror
Days of the Dead.
Trophy
Yeah,
for 2024. I got a picture holding it. That's pretty good.
yeah. That thing's heavy. That thing's a real award.
It is a real award, but so is the film. If you haven't seen it, for the happy campers out there,
Yeah,
on YouTube, Dylan's New Nightmare. You'll be surprised. You'll
yeah.
be
I'll
very
include
surprised.
a link in the description below. And so that was like my first video on YouTube, just over a year ago. Was I had seen Dylan's New Nightmare at Mad Monster on July 10th of 2023,
I was there.
and I shot a little non-spoiler review on my phone.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was sort of like what really kickstarted that whole weekend. Was really just a pivotal weekend. I'll be looking back on that one for a really long time, and it's what I've become friends with Cecil since then, since interviewing him, and just all it's just completely incredible, getting to meet you as well and being able to celebrate something
I'm
that
the easy one. Yeah.
yeah, well, and I would agree, because Cecil, man, every time I hang out with him, he's like, I have this idea for this thing, and then I have this idea for this thing, I have this idea for this thing, and I'm like, Cecil, all your ideas are so good. Like, what's going on?
And he's a hell of a writer. He
Yeah.
sent me a new script. I can't talk about it, but I gotta tell you, it's a home run.
Yeah. He really, like, talk about a student of of film, and it's great that he's getting to make his own, because I can tell that all the time he put in studying as an audience member is truly paying off, and not even just writing movies, but writing comic books, graphic novels, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's just talk about a family. The people at the Horror Show channel, like, Cecil took me under his wing, and those people welcomed me in like I was family, without even, first time I even met some of them, they were treating me like I was a brother. So it's a wild world. You never know where you're going to find some of the strongest bonds,
No, that's true. That's true. Very
and so I do want to talk about your performance in Dylan's New Nightmare here before we wrap this up.
Your time's up, brother. Sorry.
Because
go ahead.
You are having so much fun in there. It's one of the things I mentioned in like my full-on review once the film came out and I could really talk about everything, is how awesome it was to see you not only step into a different beloved franchise within the horror community, but to really let loose. You're really letting loose there. And the mix of you and Dave McRae was really fun too,
And he's a great guy, great actor. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
And Nora Hewitt. Oh my God.
Oh geez. Yeah. Yeah. And then Mikey Rotella with the sculpting work that he did for that Freddy look. And yeah, I mean, the whole team, that was like the big thing about what I took away from watching a film like Dylan's New Nightmares. Everyone in front of and behind the camera, relatively small crew, but every single person knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I was very fortunate to have fun with it, because I'm sure Cecil had an idea on who he wanted, what he wanted from the character, and I brought a whole different ball game to it.
There's a huge range in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah, he was blown away. I even blew myself away. The way I end that scene, I can't even tell you where that came from. It just,
you lose yourself, I guess, sometimes, right? You just,
just
go for it.
The next level. I'm a method actor as far as training. I did 3 years of Stanislavski method way back in the 70s. And comedy improv with Harvey Lumbeck at Paramount Studios. And the method acting was with Grant Williams, of all people, The Incredible Shrinking Man. And then I did 3 years of Shakespeare with Will Geer, Grandpa Walton on TV's Walton's.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I was rounding out my craft and having things to go back on. But, there's no better experience than one on the set.
Yeah.
It just takes you to a whole new level.
Yeah, and you get to there's like emotional moments. There's really, just with that back and forth. I won't spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen the film yet. Click the link in the description below if you'd like to see the film. But there is, really, you touch a little bit on everything there in that one scene. And again, really natural. And of course, I mean, Miko, that was one of those things where it's like, man, who saw this one coming? A return to, I would say, I think New Nightmare it's my favorite sequel in the A Nightmare on Elm Street series. So it was really cool to see Cecil, hop into that playground and see what else could be done.
Well,
And it ain't over.
We'll see, won't we? We'll
Yeah.
see.
It ain't
I pray.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly believe that it's not over. It's just a matter of not if but when, right?
Very true. Very true. That's up to
Yeah.
I guess that'd be Wes Craven up there.
Yeah. Wes, could you communicate to your family that now's the time? Now's the time. And I guess this might be a good question for you. I don't, maybe it's not. Who knows? I won't know until I ask it. But how are you? Do you want to see Jason come back, Freddy come back, and have a whole new generation, a whole new wave come in here to just reinvigorate these two franchises you've been a part of?
I'm not against it. That's the whole thing. As long as whoever's doing it is creative and not beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
I mean, Jaws 1 was like, I'm still scared, and I'm a scuba diver, and I'm still scared to go in the water.
Yeah.
2, 3, there's entertainment. Don't get me wrong, it's entertainment. Aliens, the first one. Oh yeah, there's it's good. It's entertaining.
Yeah.
I think Star Wars was the only. I mean, each one was awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't go, oh, that wasn't good. No.
Yeah.
If they can be creative and I think they can, I'm not against it at all.
Yeah.
I truly think that there's a lot of talent out there. The only problem is you always compare.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to compare a new Freddy Krueger to Robert Englund.
Yeah.
Two different actors, two different styles. You have to give up what you believe in,
That's one of the big ones that it seems like most people can't. They have a tough time getting over it because that's was so consistent for so long with Robert.
Yeah. No, I get over it, but maybe Robert has one more in him. Who knows?
Hey, I'm hoping, and I think in the spirit of what you said, somebody like Cecil, these are the people that should be getting these opportunities. Same thing with Vin, where I'm just like, if the Friday the 13th people are arguing, the rights holders, if that's what's going on and they're trying to figure out whatever, okay, that's cool. Bring in Vincent DeSanti while you're having that argument and just see all the great ideas that somebody, that a fan that's not just a fan, but a fan that is also technically proficient in creating film,
True. I would love to see Vince as the next Jason. He's got so much experience. He has such a stage presence.
Yeah.
That would be I think that would be awesome.
That'd be the way to go.
Awesome. Yeah. But it's what you got to do with the fans and it's not just about the money, so.
Yeah, that's one of the things, I'm a huge, Halloween is something that's so near and dear to me. And it's one of the things that I'm really thankful for being a Halloween fan, that Malik Akkad, who is in charge of those rights, is just, he's such a fan of the fans. He's a man of the people. And
that's awesome.
And they're making movies. And I think that's something that, the Friday the 13th fans and the Fred heads with the Nightmare on Elm Street, they just want to see, those movies. They just want something that's a bit more meat on the bone, I guess, which is appropriate, I suppose, in horror.
And they're ready for it. I mean, I thought it was interesting. I think it was at Mad Monster that in 2023. I think I can't remember which convention I was at where we screened Dylan's New Nightmare. I think it was that one. Yeah,
that's the one, yeah.
And a guy had this big lifted, Bigfoot type truck, competition. It was all set with Freddy's picture was on the side, and it said Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, it was wild paint job, man. This thing was huge. And he had myself and Mika, the cast, autographed the truck. But, he lifted the hood and there's this monster engine and this beautiful flaming paint job and having us sign in that area. That was just an honor.
That's so awesome.
And we're part of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
That was an honor.
Absolutely. Yeah, to be a part of two of the big three, as they're known within the fandoms.
Very lucky, very blessed. And on that note,
yeah, we have, it looks like, you know, we've reached our time. You've been so awesome and sweet. It's been just excellent talking to you and shooting the shit, you know. I will include, of course, yeah. And I will include links in the description below, so you guys can check out. Do you have a name for the con out there in Kingman?
Yeah, well, I'll send everything to you. It's I believe it's Kingman Comic Con.
Okay.
I do have the information. I'll send to you. And sorry about the texts that are coming through.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right.
Turn that off, you know?
I can edit all around those. I'm a maestro, so it's all right.
As long as you don't see them, you just hear them.
just a little.
Yeah, sorry about that. I couldn't figure out
no worries.
To turn it off. I knew it was going to happen. I'm involved in another film project, and it just doesn't stop.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Yeah,
we'll talk about that one next time.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll include links down below so everyone can check everything out. Of course, I mean, you know, Friday the 13th Part 5 is celebrating its 40th anniversary in March of 2025. So everyone clear your schedules, be on the lookout, because it sounds like there could be some big things coming, and you're not going to want to miss this.
There's definitely some big things coming for the 40th. I know of 2 so far, but there better be a lot more, because it's not going to happen again.
Yeah, this is the one to get in on. Well, thank you so much.
Out there, come on, core group of Part 5 people.
Yeah,
just your town. There's a lot of towns we haven't been to.
You know what I'll do? I'll wherever you guys are going, I'll go to the closest one. Kate and I will come out, and you know, we'll bring some baked goods and some food. You know, Kate's a big cook, and she loves to bake and everything.
Life that Day of the Dead. But we won't go
so
through that.
We'll bring some fun stuff for everyone to enjoy and hang out with the repetition crew.
Ooh, there we go.
All right, well, take care, Ron. Appreciate you.
Merry blessings, man. You take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.